What's up, Playboys? Welcome back to the CMB Sports Show. I'm your host, Braylon Brakefield. Along here with me, my co-host and good friend, Cole Lepchitz. Cole, how you feeling, buddy? What's the temperature?
Man, I'm feeling good. I'll be honest with you guys. I'll be transparent. I'm kind of running hot right now. The rankings came out. Some surprises. A lot of people are disappointed. But I think overall it's pretty fair. For the first week, it's hard to tell. Got a lot of tough games coming up, but that's really big weekend ahead of us too. So yeah. I'm still hot though.
I actually posted a blog about it and went through and did my own rankings, and that was a lot of fun. Being able to just type and just go ham and just air out everything that I wanted to say. I feel like I was very fair about everything. That no bias really leaked.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I had Tennessee at number 2, Georgia at number 1. The only reason I had Georgia at 1 is just because I think they have the best win with a 49-3 win over Oregon. I don't think we should really discredit that just because it happened in week 1. I got Tennessee at 2 because I think they have the second best win, beating Alabama. It kind of knocks it down a little just because I think Alabama's better than Oregon, but it was only a 3-point win at home, to whereas Georgia's was a 45-point win, and it was a home game for Georgia. And it was a mutual side, but you play Georgia in Atlanta, and you're from Oregon. That's a home game basically, and that's the only reason that I would swap those two.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, I don't have a problem with Tennessee being number 1. I don't really understand, the college football committee putting Ohio State number 2. I feel like they've looked more beatable than Georgia has, just from what I've watched. I know that the Big Ten has its holes, and they probably I think the Big Ten gets more credit than they probably should. But, it's hard to get super worked up about the rankings this early because most of it will take care of itself. And I know that's kind of what everybody says, but I mean, it's the truth. Like it will, like Ohio State, Michigan will take care of itself. There's more than likely not going to be 2 teams coming from the Big Ten. Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama will take care of itself one way or another. I guess TCU and Clemson are the only 2 that could win out, and I still don't think they deserve a spot. I don't know. I don't really know what it would take for it to change my mind. I put something on Twitter last night about. Fox posted it, and it was Clemson, Michigan, Alabama, TCU. How would you rank them? And a lot of TCU fans and Michigan fans and Clemson fans were all in the comments saying, Alabama shouldn't even be up here. They have a loss and all this stuff. And I tweeted, I said, if Alabama played any of these teams at a neutral site, they're favored by a touchdown. I think I said 5 or more, but I'm starting to think it'd probably be a touchdown or more. I mean, Alabama was right there, lost to the now number 1 team in the country by 3 and made an outrageous amount of embarrassing errors and still should have won. So I think Alabama's kind of lost some credit unfairly. Couple close games also in the earlier in the season, but I don't know, it just gets me worked up seeing a lot of TCU fans chiming in. Dude, pipe down. You don't want this mess.
Yeah, that's what I had mentioned in the blog too, was Alabama is 2 plays away from being 5-3. They're also 1 play away from being 8-0 and being the number 1 team in the country probably, or at least top 2. So I get it to where, if you're not keeping up with it and you have just seen the way Alabama struggled, both times they went to Texas and then with a loss to Tennessee. But to me, the loss to Tennessee is the best loss that there is right now. You went to Knoxville and lost by a buzzer-beating field goal, like, those other teams are going to lose. TCU's going to end up with a loss, at least one loss. I think they're going to end up with 2, maybe even 3. Clemson may.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up the rest of their schedule, too.
I think Clemson's already went through their tougher part of the schedule. I know they've already beat Wake, and they beat NC State, and I think that's it. Pitt, maybe.
They have Notre Dame, but they beat Syracuse as well.
Syracuse was a big win. I think Clemson's on upset alert this weekend. They're only 3.5-point favorites against Notre Dame.
I think so too. TCU has Texas Tech, at Texas, at Baylor, and then Iowa State at home. So they still have a little bit of a gauntlet to go through. I don't think they make it out of Texas and Baylor back-to-back, and then Iowa State still ain't no slouch. I think they probably feel a little bit extra motivated this week and take care of Texas Tech, but I don't really think a whole lot of Texas Tech anyways. So,
I don't either.
But
Texas
I just
tough.
And I mean to put my Bama homer mask on, like I don't like when. Especially on ESPN when they're sitting there talking about the rankings and they're talking about how if Quentin Ewers plays the full Alabama game, like Texas wins, and that's fine. Like I get that injuries happen, and it's it's unfortunate, but at the same time, like what did their Heisman candidate or preseason Heisman candidate running back do that game? Like absolutely nothing. So we kind of we did what we had to do to win that game. So I mean I get it. Like that's a legitimate argument, okay? But I don't like when people talk about the two games that really bugs me that when people bring up when they're arguing against Alabama is Arkansas made it close for a minute and the A&M game. Our backup quarterback is a redshirt freshman. He's never played before. Comes in at Arkansas. Bryce is hurt. We end up winning by 20. Whatever, like that. I don't feel like that's any kind of argument. And they tried to bring that up on the college football show or whatever. And then they talked about how terrible Alabama looked against A&M. And if Bryce plays, we win by 50, and we still won with our backup quarterback. So I just don't think like you can really bring that up when you're arguing against Alabama. And if that's what you are bringing up, that's not a very strong argument, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you have to either look at the Alabama games and say, if Quinn Ewers plays, then Texas probably wins. If you're going to take that stance, then you also have to say, well, if Bryce Young plays against A&M and Arkansas, those games aren't close. So you can't you can't pick whatever side you want. You can't say the opposite too, like, who cares Quinn Ewers went out, but then you can't say, well, if Bryce played, then the A&M game would have been different. Because A&M doesn't know what they're doing at quarterback either. I think A&M has 3 backup quarterbacks. Like I don't know if they have a starter.
Yeah, I mean,
they
they're
bring 3 different guys out there.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy is their backup comes in and he started the season as the starter. So it's like, I don't know. So, but I mean, they're not. I mean, A&M's not very good, but I mean that's pretty much turned into a rivalry game at least for the past 2 years. So I mean, I think that one was bound to be close with Bryce out. But I just and then going on to the Tennessee game, like Alabama plays terrible and they still put up 49 points I think, and they break records of penalties and errors and stuff and still should have won. So I just don't think these people that just act like want to write Alabama off. I don't think I think they're buying into the Bama fatigue, I guess, because I just don't see. I think if Alabama, this is big, like because they've trended in the penalty, like that's what they do is commit penalties. Like I don't know why, what's changed, but I know that's a hard thing to change. But say they come out of the bye week and play clean football against LSU, it could be a bloodbath, and now everybody's thinking like, okay, Alabama might be, back, which is possible. I mean, it just depends on what kind of leadership and stuff like that they have in the locker room. Because I think, it's easy to blame penalties on the coaches, but at the same time, discipline kind of can come from different areas. I look to coaching immediately when that stuff like that happens, but if you have good leaders in the locker room, they can kind of squish that too. So I'm interested to see how we come out this week, because I'm kind of nervous. LSU at home or LSU on the road is always scary, but it's a good test out of a bye week for sure, especially with Brian Kelly acting super humble. That makes me nervous as well.
Because they started to click a little too. And, to me, any normal team, when you see the way that penalties have gone, and you've had 2 games where you've had 15-plus penalties, that's not the ref's fault. That is your team's fault. But this is...
Yeah, I agree.
I remember last year looking at, it was a couple games into the season, and I said, Alabama's going to lose. At least once. Guaranteed, maybe even twice. And after they lost to A&M, I said, this team isn't any good. Their offensive line is so bad that there's only so much you can do behind it. And then you see it in the Auburn game, the offense struggles bad. And then all of a sudden, Saban runs, moves some things around, and all of a sudden that you have one of the best offensive lines, there is for the next 2 games. So it's how does he do this? I don't know. But when Saban gets his back against the wall, he gets a loss. This is when he thrives. You won, 6 titles, and only 2 of them you went undefeated. So this is just kind of part of the game plan to him. I think he's okay with losing a game in the regular season. He knows he's still got a chance to come back.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of where being in the SEC West is nice too, because even if you do lose one, everybody beats everybody pretty much, so you still are alive, and then losing to Tennessee this year was extra beneficial just because it doesn't really affect our standings in the West. We still control our destiny. So, and we said from I think whenever the gauntlet started, I think was with Vandy, we said that Tennessee was, the game to watch out for, that we might take the L, and I mean that's exactly what happened. So I don't know. I'm really interested in the game, the Tennessee-Georgia game this week. I think that Georgia coming out as an 8-point favorite, I don't know what it is currently, is very interesting.
Or ESPN has it at 8.5. No, they have it at 8 now.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing 8 as well, with the over-under of 67. I mean, here's what I think, and it's hard to make my mind up, and I want to hear your thoughts on this too. I feel like at some point, because it happens to everybody, at some point you're going to be who you've always been. And Hendon Hooker has to be Hendon Hooker at some point. He's playing like Superman, but at some point he's going to look human, because everybody does it. You always go through some kind of tribulation throughout the season, and it's how you bounce back. And Tennessee has not been really caught up in any kind of adversity yet. I mean, they battled through the Alabama game, but that's with 100,000 and the whole state of Tennessee rallying behind them. Can they do it on the road against Georgia? I mean, I don't know, because Georgia is kind of they're very similar, with Stetson. Stetson at some point looks like Superman, and he plays perfect in the system, and then sometimes he is Stetson Bennett walk on, and you're like, what is he doing? So I want to hear your thoughts on how do you think this game's going to play out, because I think it's going to be personally, I think Georgia is going to cover the 8, just because I think when they get up on you and you start putting that pressure on, and they start putting pressure on teams, it's hard to dig out of that hole against them, because they play clean football. They play like old Alabama. They don't give you anything.
Yeah, the thing about Tennessee too is they've got a wide receiver who was their number one coming into the year, and he's been out all season. This will be his first game back. Like, they've got another guy. Imagine if he's just as good as Hyatt is. Because, I mean, Hyatt came out of nowhere. And to me, when I saw the line at 8, it made me think Georgia. Because I was expecting Georgia by, like, probably 3. Somewhere in that area. And when it came out at 8, I was like, well, that's too much. There's a reason they're setting it that high. I think that the people setting the lines are thinking, you know, if they put it at 8, Georgia's still going to win by double digits, and the whole world is going to look at it and see Tennessee's the number one team in the country, and I get 8 points with them. That's the easiest bet in the world, and those are the ones that never win. But also, I think, you know, when these guys are in college, it's kind of hard to see what they really are. But, you know, looking back on that 2019 LSU team who had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, we were like, all right, you know, this offense is elite. But when they face a great defense that can slow them down, you know, who knows what happens. But really, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson were just that much better than everybody else. Like, they were both top 5 wide receivers on the planet. Like, what if Hyatt's that guy? What if he's the guy that we just don't know enough about yet to know, like, he is one of the most skilled guys on the planet? Because it could be. And I don't think Hendon Hooker is Joe Burrow. I think he's, you know, in his 6th year, so he's just smart with the ball and he does what he can. But if Georgia can get to him, I think that's the deciding factor. I think Alabama didn't do a great job of really getting pressure to him, so Tennessee's offense just kind of got to run the way that they wanted it to, and Georgia's defensive front's a little better than Alabama's, so if they can get to him, then it's a game changer. Not having Nolan Smith's going to suck for Georgia, though.
Yeah. I think that the reason why, I think I said last time that, you know, it's like a triangle. Like, I think that Tennessee is an awful matchup for Alabama. I think that Georgia is an awful matchup for Tennessee, and I think Alabama is an awful matchup for Georgia. And Alabama and Georgia play very similar styles, and Alabama wants you to play that slow, ground and pound, play with your tight end kind of style so we can keep everything in front. You're not going to gash us. And then Tennessee plays like that high pace, you know, what's always beaten Alabama, it feels like, you know, the hurry-ups and all that stuff gets us tired. We can't do our subs. But I think Georgia is a bad matchup for Tennessee because they're almost a perfected version of what stops that high-speed game, and it's because they can get to the quarterback with only like 4 or 5. And that is all because of Kirby, because if you watch I know this. I mean, 1, I've watched Kirby, I feel like, my whole life. 2, I've watched a lot of old, you know, when we played Georgia, I've watched like, a lot of old national championships, SEC championship games a lot. And some of the stunts that they pull, that Georgia pulls, is absolutely bonkers. I mean, you got dudes coming from everywhere, and it feels like 8 dudes are coming at you, and it's 4 300-pound dudes, you know, clogging up every hole, you know, crisscrossing, diving over each other, and you just don't know where they're coming from. So I think if they can do that successfully, because, I mean, Tennessee's O-line is good. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, they're a good O-line, but I don't think they've seen anything like this. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Georgia's front can dictate the line of scrimmage, because they're the best at it. I mean, that's what they do. That's kind of where their great defense starts, is up front. So it's going to be a great matchup because not only on the athletes on the field, but the brains on the sideline. Kirby is a defensive wizard, and then Josh Heupel has shown that, you know, he's about that action. Like, he's an offensive mastermind. So I'm kind of excited to see their kind of, clash of the minds, I guess, and strategies and stuff like that. Just, I think it's going to be. I'm actually super excited for this game. I'm glad it's the 2:30 game, because I'm going to sit there and die. I might even have a notebook out and like take notes. Like, this is going to be like a football nerd moment.
Yeah, because the winner probably gets Alabama if things shake out the way that everybody thinks there is. And if Alabama beats them, Alabama's in, even with a loss to Tennessee. And I completely agree. with Kirby, he's one of the best in the game. Like when he's blitzing 3 and 4 guys and one guy goes untouched and gets to the quarterback, that is 99% of that is on him and the scheme and what he's doing and the plays he's calling. And he's just so good at it. And I think if you can...
It happens all the time, too, that the 4 with the guy just coming untouched. You're like, they only brought 4. Like, how did that happen?
Because he's just good. And Georgia's offense is underrated.
It's crazy.
Like, I know a lot of people,
yeah.
When you look at Stetson Bennett, he's not a world beater, but they just wear you down. Like, they're such a bad matchup because they have, like we've said before, Bowers would be a 99. He'd be the highest ranked player on NCAA 2022. And they've got 2 other guys that keep up with him, and it's just so hard to find somebody in college that's big enough to keep up with them, or that's quick enough to, that's big enough to stop them. That perfect match only exists in the NFL, and they're going to wreak havoc on Tennessee's defense, I think. But I still don't know if 8 points is too much for Tennessee's offense.
It's so tough too, because every time I think about each team, I think, well, Tennessee is going to be able to score. I mean, they got into field goal range on Alabama in 15 seconds. Like that's what I keep going back to. But then at the same time, like I think that the defensive scheme at the end of the day will get a stop, late. Because I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Which defense can get more stops? And
if that's the game,
Georgia's got just so many go-tos. You know what I mean? Yeah. If it comes down to that, I mean, I trust Georgia's defense a whole lot more than Tennessee's defense. I don't know. I'm excited. I think it's going to be electric. It's going to be just one of those classic games, and I don't know, man. I wish there was a way that both teams could lose, but we just gotta roll with it, I guess. Whichever way it shakes out. I don't know who I'm going to pull for. Actually, I want, I'll probably shade whichever way my investment goes. But there's nothing better than watching Georgia lose. To me personally, I feel like that's where Auburn fans and Alabama fans can kind of shake hands and agree. But at the same time, I feel like Tennessee fans are just, they're just super cocky, and they'll sit there and tell you how cocky they are, and they'll give you 10 reasons why they should be and why you kind of just have to sit there and take it. And so it's also nice to watch them kind of lose and hang their head. So I don't know, man. I think it's just going to be one that you just sit back and you just nerd out and you just enjoy it.
Yeah, one thing to think about, too, that's weird when you think about the rankings is Tennessee's plus 1,100 to win it all last time I checked. Georgia is plus 135. Ohio State's like plus 145. And Alabama's like plus 380. So, like, they're saying Alabama has 3 times the chance to win the national title over Tennessee, who's ranked number 1. And Alabama wouldn't even make the playoffs if it started today. So, like, how much faith do they have in Tennessee? You look at Tennessee, they have the number 1 offense, but they also have like the 80th defense. And you look at Georgia, and they have a great defense. They also have the number 6 ranked scoring offense. So, like, Georgia's obviously the most complete team, but I still think Hyatt just could be that dude. Like, maybe he's a top 10 wide receiver on the planet right now.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, when you have athletes like that and they spread it out, I mean, it's just like watching their offense run, like those slants and digs, and they're just wide open. It's like, how is that wide open? How is that guy running free down the sideline? It's almost, I wish for games like this, I wish there was like an end zone view that you could watch, so you could see how like their route tree and the holes open up and stuff. Because that's what makes college football so fun. Is it's just I don't know, man. It's just dudes out there just being dudes. Like, just you have your Jamar Chases and Justin Jeffersons just taking over games, and Bowers is gonna go for a big. I can feel it because I don't know who from Tennessee can match up with him. I don't think their safeties are just big dudes. So he's gonna have to be double covered. Look for, I don't even know his name, number 84, the white wide receiver for Georgia. He'll have a big game. He kind of takes the top off of any defense. So I don't know. I feel like 67 is low too, man. I
think
feel
it
like
is too.
It's probably going to be higher. I think it's going to be kind of a shootout.
And that's a lot of people, because the generic, thing going into it, Tennessee has the best offense. Georgia has one of the best defense. So people think if it's lower points, it's in Georgia's favor. If it's higher, everybody keeps saying if it's a shootout, Tennessee wins. Georgia's 6th in the country right now scoring. They're scoring 41 points a game. They can score with you in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, outside, like we talked about the 2 weeks that they struggled, outside of that, they've given up 40 points in 6 games. And they've scored 269. Like, they're just hammering everyone. And to me, they look like the most complete team in the country right now. A lot of people might argue Ohio State right now. But to me, it's Georgia. And if, as an outsider, I don't have any, skin in the game. If I was an Alabama fan, I'm rooting for Tennessee hardcore. Like you said, Alabama kind of stunk. At Tennessee, didn't play their best game. It was at Tennessee, and it was a 3-point buzzer beater. I don't know if you get that against Georgia. I think on a mutual side, in a rematch against Tennessee, you have a better chance at winning. Even if Tennessee goes out and they beat Georgia by 21, I would still much rather face Tennessee than Georgia.
I think so too, especially, now that Georgia's beat us, for the first time in however many years. I think that, I still think we have a favorable matchup, but confidence is also a big piece of that. Now that they've tasted that, that win against Alabama, and it was for a national championship, I feel like that might change some things. I hope it doesn't, but yeah, I still would much rather have my rematch against Tennessee and kind of let them know, like, hey, that's not how it's going to be no more. Like, you got your one, and like, welcome to the show. Welcome to Atlanta. Like, thanks for coming out, kind of deal. I think it would be like that.
I think Tennessee. I think Alabama would be favored over Tennessee. I think they would be underdogs to Georgia if they replayed in the SEC championship.
I think that's fair. And that brings me to something I was thinking about earlier. I feel like Vegas should come out with some kind of ranking of their own. That is like, if Alabama played Ohio State at a neutral site, who's favored? Okay.
Yeah, I would love that.
Whoever we'll say like Ohio State's favored by 3. All right. Alabama's below them. Okay. Who's next? Clemson. Alabama, Clemson play. Alabama's favored by 3. Okay, boom. Clemson, TCU. Who's favored? I think it should roll like that for at least the top 25. I think that would be awesome.
It would. I
don't know if that would give away their hand. I don't think it would because, they give their line out anyways. So, but I feel like personally, that's how you get the best. That's how you get your best games. The line isn't always right, but I feel like it's always pretty close. It always seems to shake out pretty close either way.
So, scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you going to LSU as a 13.5 point favorite?
Probably about an 8.
Really?
I do. I'm an anxious Alabama fan. I think there's every time we play Mississippi State, I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. Like, we got to go in there. We can't have any crazy injuries because, you're one bad hit, you're one targeting away on Bryce Young. Like, the season's in shambles. Like, we don't have Jalen Hurts hanging out in the locker room, like, just ready to come, win an SEC championship for us anymore. Like, or Mac Jones to come in and throw two crazy picks against Auburn. Like, we got Jalen Milroe who's just scared to throw it right now. So, I don't know. I mean, I always get nervous, especially for these big games. And then I see stats like Alabama hasn't lost in Baton Rouge in like a decade. So then I'm like, well, I don't feel as nervous when I hear things like that, but like at the same time, I feel like that almost makes me feel like they're due. And we're not the best team on the road, but we're also coming out of a bye week. You have so many trends that clash with the way I think, but I just, it's just how it is. I don't know how to explain how I feel about it. It's just sometimes my gut gives me a good feeling, and sometimes I have a bad. And right now I have a medium. I don't. Do we win by 13? Maybe. I can, in some scenarios I could see it. Some scenarios I don't see it. So I guess it just depends on if we can stop. I know. Is he Jalen or Jaden? The LSU quarterback.
I don't know. I think it's Jaden. I think Jalen is at Kansas.
The Kansas?
Yeah.
I mean, like, can we stop him from running it? Like, how good of a thrower is he? Is he gonna pull a Zach Calzada? I don't know.
It's gonna be tough. I think the line tells you all you need to know, though. Bama by 14. Which then again, Bama's one of those teams you're gonna pay. If you want to bet Bama, you're gonna pay a premium. Like, they're not gonna give you Bama -3 at LSU. That's not gonna happen. You're going to have to lay some points if you're going to want to bet Bama. And LSU, I think they're better than what we think that they were at the beginning of the year. And who knows? It's in LSU, like you said. 12 years since they've beaten you there. I guess we'll find out. Since
it's gonna be crazy. No corn dogs have been ate this week. That's for sure.
Since literally like 6 hours after we recorded last week, Auburn fires Brian Harsin. Finally, we are, relieved. It feels great. I feel like a wanted person. Like, I feel like there are people. I feel like right now Auburn is more dangerous than they have been in 4 years without a coach. Because who knows what's coming next? Like, is it time for Auburn to make that big splash? And they kind of slapped a Band-Aid on with the last hire, taking Harsin, thinking, we would get something like a Pat Dye type run because of, all the similarity, both of them coming from out west. But I think it's time where you just can't look at the Colts. You can't just keep slapping a Band-Aid on it. Eventually, you got to open the checkbook and you got to give the keys to somebody and let them take off. And I think it's going to be Lane Kiffin or Deion Sanders.
Yeah, I think so too. I know the odds definitely look that way. I think there's one more guy in there. What's his name?
Yeah, new odds. I saw SEC Mike post them today. Jeff Grimes, who's plus 100, which is even money. He's emerged as one of the favorites. He was an assistant. I think he was an offensive line coach for Auburn in 2010. He was there for 3 or 4 years. Since then, he was at BYU. He was at BYU not last year, but the year before that for like 2 or 3 years. And then he was at Baylor last year and this year as offensive coordinator. He's been up in the top 5 assistants the past 2 years. So he was up for the Assistant of the Year award the past 2 years. Baylor, he took them from the 100th ranked offense to them averaging like 31 points a game. I think they won the Big 12 last year. They were pretty dangerous. They had that great game against Ole Miss. Before then, he was at BYU. They were averaging like 47 points a game. So he's obviously a good offensive coach, which is what I think Auburn's trying to pivot to. And then, like I said, he's got the Auburn ties, and he's kind of the next assistant up to get a head coaching job. But Hugh Freeze is in second at plus 250. I don't think Hugh Freeze is getting an Auburn job. I don't think it'll even be offered to him. I think him having his name in the hat, because he always does for some reason when Auburn's brought up, just got him an 8-year extension. And I think he's fine staying there at Liberty. I think he just kind of used the Auburn hype to get a check. And then you got Lane Kiffin at plus 275 and Deion Sanders, who, if you follow 247 Sports, they flight tracker on Deion Sanders. He landed in Atlanta this morning, Atlanta is the closest airport to Auburn. He is at plus 700, so who knows?
I just don't. I feel like he would fly straight into Auburn, though. Auburn has an airport.
On a PJ?
Yeah. He's not going to fly into it. Yeah, he's not. I mean, we're talking about Prime.
Prime don't. There's no way Prime.
He ain't wasting no time in no limo ride down, I-85. He's flying straight to the source. They probably just take a helicopter the whole way. You know what I mean? Like Prime ain't taking no limousine. He's not going to hit. He's not going to jump in the Uber or nothing like that. He's going straight to Auburn. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, hey man, how about you meet me here? Like, how about you come to Jackson? We can talk. But I did hear something. Our good friend Chase, who's a friend of the show, was listening to Birmingham radio today, and he told me that before Harsin was hired, Billy Napier was almost a lock. He was like driving up to Auburn from Louisiana to like do the final negotiations and sign some papers, and he wanted to talk, or he told the old coordinator, something Green, Alan Green or AJ Green, something like that.
Alan Green was the AD.
Alan Green. He told Alan Green that he wanted to talk to, I guess, the boosters maybe or something, or he wanted to talk to somebody, and Alan Green said no, and Billy Napier just turned around and never showed up. So then, because Alan Green had Harsin, I guess, in the making, so kind of makes more sense why he left. It sounds like they pretty much told him, like, hey, you're going to leave or we're going to fire you, kind of deal for fumbling the bag like this. Because I'll be honest with you, Billy Napier at Auburn makes a lot of sense. They kind of have, Billy Napier brings that dog mentality, especially coming after Gus. But, all things happen for a reason, and now you're probably going to get, like a forever coach. You're going to get a dude you're going to offer a lifetime contract to, probably. So, all things happen for a reason.
And it's crazy to think about which, like, Alabama could be in Auburn's shoes in, 3 years. Like, let me just lay this out. Because right now, Auburn is stuck because Auburn's two biggest rivals have Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. Those are two, there's an argument, those are the three best coaches in the country. I would say that's 1 and 2 to me.
Yeah, I think so too.
And that's really what's keeping them down a lot, and they haven't been able to find a good coaching hire. If Heupel, which I don't think Heupel is this guy, I think Heupel is, everything Heupel is going to be is what he is this year. I don't think he's the guy that's, going to run 10 years at Tennessee and be dominant. I think if you're a Tennessee fan, I'm being dead honest with you, I think you enjoy this year. You hope, Nicola Lama Lama Lakem is great next year. And if he's not, you're right back to being 5-5, every time when you play Alabama. Like, I think this is one of those years where you have a 6-year quarterback, you've got some athletes on the outside, and nobody's adjusted to your coach's game plan yet because nobody knows who he is. It's hard to be
you're LSU,
successful.
You're 2019 LSU right now.
Yeah, 100%. You're, when Johnny came through A&M, you are a flash in a pan right now. It's hard to be consistent with that. Don't go give Heupel the bag. Don't extend Heupel after this year.
No.
Let him prove it to you for 2 or 3 years before you just go, handing out McDonald's bags to him. Like, just take a breather because this may not work out. But if it does work out, and he is, as good as he is this year and can be consistent with it, and Auburn lands a huge hire, that puts Alabama in a bind once Saban leaves. Like, that would almost force their hand at going to get Dabo, where if Auburn misses on another hire, Alabama could be around to hire next, and get their pick of the choosing and stay on top for the next 20 years. So this is a huge hire for Auburn because Saban ain't going to be there in 10 years. Maybe not even 5. Like, he's just old. You've got to strike now.
Yeah. I think that that's a valid argument. I think that we have set in some good spots of leadership that our president and the AD, and kind of like our I guess our legacy and kind of what Nick Saban has put in place, where the boosters don't have like the say like they used to, which is kind of like Auburn's problem now, which was Texas' problem. Like, it happens with these big schools, and I think Nick Saban kind of came in and squashed like that, like he came in and was like, hey, no, that's not how it works. So I'd like to think that it stays that way, but I think that the next hire is pretty crucial, but it's also a scary hire because who wants that role? Who follows up Nick Saban? So, you'd think it would be, some, like a protege. I hope it's not
Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien comes back or Pete Golding or something like that. Like, keep those dudes away. And, like, Bill O'Brien could be good, but he's just, like, I feel like he's just too NFL, man. Like, he's just too... he's all about, he takes the backdoor covers for the other team. Like, that's what he's all about. He's up there, when we're not on offense, he's up there trying to get live picks up in the box. And, he's like, hey, man, how about we get a backdoor cover here? We're about to just run it 3 times right up the gut and not, we're just going to go 3 and out a couple times. They're going to score. And then, I feel like that's what he's all about until it gets like the big games. And then you just see this route tree that you're like, what? Like, where did that come from? So I don't know. He's just real sus. He's just not, what we're accustomed to with Sarkisian and Kiffin. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is probably why I don't make millions to decide who would come and coach at Alabama. It's hard to think like who would even want it. But I'm sure I feel like they would kind of have it figured out. Like, it would be almost a handoff kind of deal. But I don't know, that's why I enjoy every week. I enjoy every day as an Alabama fan for the past, since, I guess, 2009, ever since. I have just lived it up, and because I know at some point, because when I first became an Alabama fan, it was the dark days. And that's when I really started paying attention to Alabama football. Was Brody Croyle and the early years of John Parker Wilson, and it was so I know even though I was a young kid, like I know what it looks like when we're terrible and it's not fun. So I hope it never happens again. But like realistically, you have to know like it's coming at some point. Like you're not just gonna be dominant forever. Even the Patriots, you thought. Or we all thought like they were going to be great for 30 years and they only made it 25. You know what I mean? So I think that it's coming at some point, and I'm just going to live it up until that happens.
Yeah, because it happens fast. Trust me, as an Auburn fan, It happens fast. And then you're stumbling for years trying to recover. But also I've ranted about it enough. If you think Ole Miss and Auburn is a lateral move, you're an idiot. Lane Kiffin's one of the best coaches in the country right now. The best he can do is get Ole Miss to 10 wins. Gene Chizik is one of the worst coaches in the history of football. He won a national title at Auburn. He's giving up 100 points every week as the defensive coordinator at North Carolina right now. If you think that's a lateral move, you just don't pay attention enough.
Yeah.
and I'm in the mud right now.
I think
I've been
that-
studying everything. I know how much money Auburn made last year. I know how much money Ole Miss made last year. There's nothing you could tell me about Ole Miss and Auburn right now that would shock me. It's already in here.
Yeah, it's hard to say too. And I'm with you. I think that's a hill you die on. I think for casuals right now, it's tough to see. And I was there at one point where I almost bought in. Like, dude, that's a lateral move. I've said it. I've came out and said it. It's a lateral move, and I go back on that because I fell into the trap of Ole Miss is up right now and Auburn is down. And so I'm not seeing clearly of the two pictures at hand. You know what I mean? I think that when everything is equal, Auburn is they have the potential to be, dynasty. They have the potential to be like what Alabama and Georgia are. And since we all kind of play each other anyways, like we're all going to kind of keep each other competitive at the same time. So I think you're right on that. I think that's a hill to die on. I mean, Ole Miss is, flashy and fun, and they have cool colors and whatnot, and everybody thinks that they're like a cool, university or whatever, but they have a cool
Grove
tailgating
sucks.
scene.
The Grove sucks.
Dude, it's just a bunch of trees, man.
You can't even
Put me on the quad. Put me
on
on the quad on a Saturday any day. I don't care.
Put me anywhere. Let me get 3 good meals in prison and watch football for a day instead of going to the Grove, where I can't even grill with my buddies.
Put me at put me at a high top at B-Dubs with my boys.
1
I'd rather
million
do
percent.
that.
1 million percent.
Unreal.
Ole Miss.
At least I can get a nice fresh burger there. I mean, gee whiz.
Ole Miss has the best coach they've ever had in the history of their program right now, and he's begging people to come and stay for the game. Auburn was ready to fire their coach at the end of last season. They finished 10th in revenue in the entire country. Top 10 in one of the worst years they've had in the last 20-something years. There is no comparison. It's not even they're not even in the same league. I think Auburn is the top of Tier 2 in the SEC right now when it comes to jobs, and I think Ole Miss is top of Tier 3. I think you got.
I'm with that. When everything's equal, and you're not the view isn't cloudy. You're looking at each university for what it is. You're not thinking about how they are right now. I agree with you. I think Auburn is that top of Tier 2. Could almost slide into Tier 1 if it's a culture change kind of deal.
I think Auburn and Tennessee are both right there. I think Auburn and Tennessee are, a couple good years from being Tier 1. I would rank them. LSU to me is the number 1 job in the entire country. Number 2, depending on the year recruiting wise, it's either Georgia or Florida. Because I think that's where those states are finishing second and third probably in recruits, and then I think it's the other one at 3rd, Bama's 4, and I think you're going Auburn or Tennessee at 5. I would go Auburn just because of the recruiting blast, and Tennessee at 6.
I don't know, man. I know I'm biased. I still think I mean I can agree with you with LSU, but I still think Alabama's probably the best job in the country. Maybe not before Nick Saban was there, but now that Nick Saban has been there and completely changed everything, and everything is just, I don't know, man. I think the money that comes in, I don't know what it is, man. I just walking around that facility is just I don't know. It's like the New York Yankees, you're just walking around looking at all these championships, and I think that has something to say as far as recruiting goes. I mean, you're in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and which is not the best town, and it's just a gold mine for whatever reason. You know what I mean? So.
And if you want to argue Alabama,
I mean, I'm with
2,
you though.
I take that too. I would be if somebody told me LSU's 1, Alabama is 2. I would be like, okay, that's perfectly fine. I think LSU is 10 shoulders above everybody.
When you think of Florida too, I get that. Florida at its best is is ridiculous. Georgia at its best, we're looking at it. We haven't really seen LSU kind of pull a dynasty in a while, or like a couple good years in a row. I think Les and Nick Saban kind of back to back where it was a good good run. But it's just I don't know, man. LSU's cool. I just don't know. They have the big stadium, and they have the best home field advantage. So I can kind of see that. Like if you get it rolling, it would be tough. It'd be like going, if you're in the Pac-12, like when USC is really good, it'd be like going to play them. It's like you have no hope. Like when Reggie Bush was there. So, I mean, I could accept that argument. I don't really have a problem with that.
My main argument for LSU is, for one, they're in one of the Big Five recruiting states. To me, they have the biggest advantage out of those recruiting states because everyone that's from Louisiana lives, breathes, and dies Louisiana. Like, you remember whenever, was it Landon Collins, who was from Louisiana, and he ended up committing to Alabama over Louisiana, and it was huge news.
And his mom hated him.
Yeah, it was huge news because a top recruit left Louisiana. It just doesn't ever happen.
Yeah.
And then you've got two coaches like Les Miles and Coach O, won national titles there. Nobody wants those guys right now. Like, nobody would offer those guys a contract right now. And then, other ones, like, it took Nick Saban, who's the greatest of all time, to come win at Alabama. They built two dynasties, but they were built by two of the best coaches of all time. So that's why I'm okay with that Alabama being, a close second. But to me, LSU is where it's at. Like, Florida and Georgia have the same recruiting advantages, but they don't have that to where big recruits leave Florida and Georgia to come to Alabama, or every once in a while to come to Auburn or to go to Tennessee. But those big recruits, they don't leave Louisiana. They're there.
Yeah. I will say, like, when Alabama was really, really good, like 2012 to, whenever, like, Jalen and Tua started getting there, like, so I guess, like, 2015, 2016, we were getting a lot of Louisiana dudes, you know? I mean, if you go back and look, there's a lot of dudes that came from Louisiana. And then we started getting California and Texas guys, and we kind of changed up our vibe as far as the Bama factor goes. But, they're just different down there, man. I mean, like we said before, I mean, they don't even have counties down there. They got parishes.
It's a different world.
You're going to tell me them dudes are, they aren't going to be hard? Like, they don't even have counties, bro. Well, this is America. They don't have counties.
All those people dream
it's
about
it's just an advantage.
Is owning a restaurant or a bar on Bourbon Street or playing for LSU and then the Saints. And that's all those people want.
Yep.
Like, that's the mountaintop is playing for LSU.
Yeah. I mean, playing for the Saints, too. I mean, think about how many, Louisiana guys go back and play for the Saints or figure out a way to go play for the Saints.
Yeah, we just saw the Honey Badger do it. I think he had, like, the highest selling jersey in the NFL for a while.
Jarvis Landry is another one. Yeah.
They're about it.
I don't know.
Louisiana people are about it. Cuts deep.
I think Louisiana's cool too.
Very cool.
My Uncle Bob has worked and lived down there. Aunt Barbara is from there, so we got some Louisiana roots in my family, and they're definitely about it. It's a cool place. I been to New Orleans a couple times. It's a cool place.
So give me your top 6. Your rankings right now, and then we'll close it out.
Right now,
in order,
I got Georgia at number 1. Number 2, right now I have to go Tennessee. 3.
Do it. I
can't do it, man. I can't do that. I don't know, man. Ohio State. I think Ohio State gives Alabama problems. Alabama at 4. Give me Michigan at 5. Clemson at 6. TCU at 7.
Who'd you have it for? Bama?
Bama.
That's fair. I had Bama at 5, but I had Michigan at 4.
I don't think Michigan gives Alabama the problems that Ohio State gives them.
I agree.
I think Ohio State gives Alabama problems. I really do. I think they have the athletes on the outside to give Alabama problems. That scare me. But everybody up, Clemson does not scare me at all. TCU does not scare me at all. I think Ole Miss scares me more than any of those other teams.
Ole Miss is fake too.
As
Ole
far
Miss is not
as
any good.
I'm just saying, as far as like who Alabama's going to play, and that we will see, like, you know what I mean. Like, I think Ole Miss keeps me up at night longer than TCU does or Clemson.
I could see Ole Miss finishing like 9-3. Oregon, UCLA, USC.
You're in the SEC West. It's tough.
Watch out for one of those teams too. I know they don't have a good chance of making the playoffs right now, but one of them, has a chance to win out and be a one-loss Pac-12 champion. And I think all three of those teams are pretty solid.
Yeah, this would be a cool year for the 12-team playoff.
Every year would be a good year for the 12-team playoff. We could say this every year.
I mean, I don't know, man. I think the transfer portal has really balanced everything out. There's no overall number one team. I think there's tiers to it.
So tier 1, who's in tier 1?
But it's the top 4 teams.
Because I think do it.
Top. What do you mean?
You would put Alabama.
Okay,
in there?
we'll go by 4s. In the top 4 teams.
Yeah, the top
100%.
tier. The top tier. You think they're tier 1?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think that's fair. If they're tier 2, I think they're the top of tier 2.
I just don't. I don't think they're favored by less than a touchdown. I mean, they're not a dog by more than a touchdown to any of those teams. I mean, it's 3 points to any of the top other teams: Ohio State, Georgia, and Tennessee.
To me right now, I would say Georgia and Ohio State are tier 1, and Tennessee, Alabama, and Michigan are a close tier 2. I think there's a gap between, like, Tennessee beat Alabama, and now Georgia's 8-point favorites over Tennessee. I know it's the home field advantages plays into that, but think about the number 1 team in the country right now is an 8-point underdog.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I agree. But then, like, after that, like, I just don't. I think the 12-team playoff would be cool this year because of the big names in it. Like, you're gonna get, you have UCLA, Ole Miss, LSU, USC, Oregon, TCU. I mean, I don't know how cool that would be, but like, I think in the one that I saw Tulane
TCU won't be there.
No, I
TCU
just don't.
Won't be a top 12
see
team when the year's over. TCU won't be a top 12 team.
But I also kind of have a beef with, I'm fine with the best group of 5 team making it. I'm cool with that. Okay, like, I'm not against the group of 5 team playing in the playoff. I think they deserve a seat at the table. If you win your if you're the best team in the group of 5, you deserve to be in the playoff 100%. I'm cool with that, but I don't know if I like conference champions getting the bye. I saw like a projected what it would be right now after the first rankings, and I don't know if I like that because I just feel like it should still be straight up. And I mean, I get the argument of, you need to put weight on a conference championship, but I don't think all conference championships weigh the same.
Well, that's why you would still get a ranking to where, I think it's the top 4 conference champions would get a bye in the first round. And usually I think the top 4, conference champions are usually that's the playoff or the top three, and then whoever finishes second in the SEC. So it ain't likely it would be that far off to do that. Like this year, you're probably looking at Clemson, whoever wins, Tennessee or Georgia, or I guess Alabama too. One of those. Pac-12, you're looking at either Oregon, UCLA, or USC. If they went out, they would all be one-loss conference champions. I think winning your conference should hold some weight.
It's just I'm with that, and then I see it, and in the bracket that I saw that if it went right now, like live right now, and we did a bracket playoff, it would be Georgia playing Tulane and then playing TCU. And you're like, what? They might as well just got to buy to the semifinals. So I don't know. It's just stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe we should rework this. I'm all about the group of five making it, but you're just, then you just bail out the number 2 SEC team, which, it'll be great when Alabama gets it, but not great when Georgia gets it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just want, I know it's not always going to be fair, but, and I'm not talking just for the fairness of Alabama. I just think that, it's just sus. Nobody wants to see the number 2 SEC team just to get 2 buys against, the group of 12 or group of 5, and then the worst conference winner.
Which it'll continue to shake out. That. Which usually the teams that are 5th to 12th, 3 of those teams might have Heisman finalists on those teams, where those guys aren't going to play unless that game matters. So to me, that's my main argument is you get the superstars are going to come out and play in the playoffs. They're not going to sit out the bowl game. So it's just at least one extra game to get to watch guys like Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral or guys like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
But that's all I've got. If you're ready, I'm ready.
Yeah, I think I'm ready. I'm trying to see if there's any locks for this weekend. I'm not really sure.
Texas minus 2.5.
I think Texas might be a lock.
That would be mine.
I think Texas.
Why are they favored on the road against a team ranked higher than them? Vegas knows they're going to win.
Texas, and then the underdog of the week. I know it's not minus, or I know it's not a 7-point difference, but Notre Dame's my underdog.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I'll live on that one. So I know that doesn't count in the Braylon rules of underdogs, but
it's not an underdog.
I think it's justifiable. All right, let's get out of here, man. Let's have a good weekend.
Love you guys.